wanted to know, how is the situation in Afghanistan and just other parts of that region impacting your corporate social responsibility efforts and what you're trying to do? Because it seems like you're doing a lot of good things. How is that situation impacting what you're doing?
Yeah, it impacts us just as it impacts you, because you're also over there. So, it's an issue. It's an issue which I try to address in a very subtle manner in what do we do with our youth, because Afghanistan looks exactly like the rest of the Arab world. Most of the Muslim world, by the way, has at least 50% of the population under the age of 25. So you're talking about a huge, some people call it the youth bulge. So I call it a huge asset base. You know, you either look at it as negatively or you look at it as an opportunity. So when 50% of your population is under the age of 25, you're saying, wow, what a fantastic, asset that is coming out. But how do we act on it to make sure that they don't do things that are going to hurt you and are going to hurt me at the end of the day? And that's part of the discussion I had earlier about, how do you train these people? What sort of education do they get? How do you provide them jobs? And that is, in its core, a public-private partnership, because no one can do it. It's a massive, massive, daunting job. 100 million jobs, that's only in the Arab world. I'm not counting India. The largest Muslim population in the world is in India today, over 170, 180 million people. So we need to find ways that we work together so that these people become productive elements and feel a sense of ownership in the communities that they live in, so that it is about building, not destroying what matters.
So the gentleman right here in front.
Thank you. My name is Dermot Murray. I'm with Verizon, and sort of following up on that question, how do you reconcile your CSR efforts in terms of working with governments in the region that are, so to say, non-democratic or have reputations for being totalitarian in nature? Thank you.
We have, it's hard work. It's hard work. You need to lobby. You need to be very stubborn. Let me give you an example. In my country, where I am a known figure in my country, I have a lot of influential friends. It took me a year to convince government that I need to fix a government school. But I did it. They also the top people will tell you they're the most. You'll go and see a minister of education who is your friend. He says, "I love what you're doing." He signs the document, and then it trickles down to the bureaucracy and all. That's it. Forget it. But I could, as a private sector individual, as a person, say, I tried, I failed, because the government failed. But I chose not to do that. I kept knocking on doors until somebody said, all right, go do it. Same thing with a clinic. It took me a year and a half to convince the Ministry of Health that a clinic is needed in one of the communities. A year and a half. I even brought the minister himself to go to the community, and he was convinced in one day. His people took them a year and a half to accept the fact that I've built already the community health center for them. I only need a doctor. And I was willing to pay for that doctor. And I have put all the equipment in the clinic, and they still said, you don't need a clinic. And there's 100,000 people that are in need of the clinic. Now they have 200 people a day visiting that clinic. So you either choose to say, well, we couldn't because bureaucracy and red tape, or you are stubborn enough for them to get off your back. But I'll tell you what happened. We lobbied to bring in a police station to a community that did not have a police station, and we succeeded very quickly. You know why? Because we had a track record. They knew that what we're doing. Again, it's back to the brand, back to the reputation, back to them knowing that you actually mean well, that you actually want to partner with them. Because there is that inherent distrust between the public and private sector wherever you are in the world. Wherever you are. Less in different places, but not all private sector, not all countries celebrate the private sector, by the way. Even before the year of the collapse, which is the past 12 months, in many countries in our part of the world would still view the private sector as greedy. We are known as the greedy people. No matter what you do, you still are looked at that. But if you continue to work hard, if you continue to expose yourself, you continue to tell the story, it's essential. You know, there is a difference between PR and telling your story on the ground. And you have to be very careful so that you're not doing something to make yourself look good versus to make a difference on the ground and then look good because you're doing that. You have to be very careful not to oversell your story so that you don't look like you're an exhibitionist.
So we're almost beginning the afternoon's conversation about public-private partnerships, which is increasingly on the agenda as part of the bigger sustainability agenda. So I think we'll have a continued discussion around that. I want to take one more final question, and then that will be it. There was one over here I saw before. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Whitney Schinkel, and I work with Bechtel Corporation. So I wanted to thank you
With
for
Bechtel?
your... Bechtel, correct.
Okay, you do a lot of business in the Arab world.
Yes, we do. And I was curious, my question pertains to your comments about the corporate culture. That seems like it was a very big piece into embedding the CSR ideas throughout your company. And I was wondering if you might speak a bit more about how, over the 10 years that you've incorporated that into your own company, if you might be making efforts to work that into your supply chain, whether that's the companies that you lease your trucks or the airlines from or other suppliers.
It's still early stage. If I understood your question, is how you can create that ecosystem who is also sustainable, right? Yeah, and I tried to allude to it very briefly there. Yes, it is not easy when you don't have many suppliers that are like that. So when there's no choice, you have to be very careful. But what you do is you slowly but surely start qualifying suppliers, because we're being qualified now. Many clients, specifically Western companies that are doing business in our region, are asking us, do you publish a sustainability report? Because if you don't, you're not going to be able to bid on this business. And so slowly that culture is coming in, because that's, I'm a proponent of always foreign investors, not because we need their money, but because we need their knowledge, we need their skills, we need their technology, and we need their good habits from some of the countries, not the bad habits. And part of the good habits that are coming with Western companies is introduction of the greening of the supply chain. And it's a long process. You just need to keep hammering, and you need to educate, and people like BSR who come to the region. I think Peter is coming actually soon to the region to discuss the issue of supply chain. It's a question of disseminating knowledge and information, and eventually you can start a process of qualifying these suppliers. There are groups that are popping up in the region that are addressing sustainability. There is something called the Arab Sustainability Leadership Group now, which is basically bringing companies like ourselves into the circle of thinking of sustainability and acting on sustainability, and thus will give us the ability to basically tell suppliers, that's how we do business, and you need to adhere to those principles which are sustainable.
I think, unfortunately, that we'll have to stop our conversation here. It's been
Thank
a
you very
pleasure
much.
to have you here. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Pleasure. Thank you.